All right, thank you all for tuning back in. So we finished up our last video talking about our community input session and how we had everybody come together that wanted to come out to the Rib Lake Middle School and give us feedback in those sessions. We took that plan, we adapted with feedback that we got on individual plans, kind of the pros and cons, and then we also use that survey to tell us what a majority of the people were saying that we should move forward with, and then we put that forward in a proposal to the community. So we sent this community survey out across the school district. Ideally, it would hit every single mailbox of every taxpayer in the school district of Rib Lake. We do know that we did miss a few of those, specifically in the Greenwood area. We did not have a fully complete list when we sent that out. We have since rectified that, so everybody across the school district should be getting all of our communications from here on out. But with that, we did also email this out, the survey, to every parent, anybody that we had an email on. So every parent, regardless of where they lived in the school district, got this a link to fill out the survey as well. We did post this on our social media. We did post this in the Star News. So anybody that wanted an extra copy or maybe didn't get a copy in the mail could request that, and we did put out a number of those as well. We mailed more out to people that didn't get them or people that wanted extras, emailed out extra ones. So we did get a pretty good response rate. We actually had higher than the average response rate for surveys like this. So we feel very good about the data that we had from this. I'm going to move my version of myself there down below so we can see this. So we asked a few different questions, and in that we had kind of three different buckets. We had staff that responded, we had parents that responded, and then we had non-parents and non-staff. And we know that our non-parent, non-staff is our biggest bucket. So the highest number of population and the highest voter turnout that we'll probably get. So we did record this at about 75%. So when you look at these numbers, we gave this a 75% weight, and we gave parents only a 25% weight to try to balance that to tell us what our overall population is actually saying. We know that parents probably are more likely to fill this survey out, but actually voting and the number of population that we have, we're going to have more population in this non-parent, non-staff bucket. So this is how the data comes out. So we asked a few different questions as well as just general questions about the school district. And from these, you can kind of break them down into these. You notice that I haven't talked about the community daycare or the athletics improvements yet. And that's really because of this data that we got back. So the community daycare, we know that this is a need across the school district. I think our community knows that this is a need. But what we heard in the community survey was, yes, this is a need, but we don't think taxpayers should be funding it. And that's what it really came down to. So this was a $1.2 million project. We did not get enough support here to move forward with this. And listening, we cut it. We don't want to do anything that our community is not behind. And we really want to listen and adapt to that. So hearing that, we removed that from our overall scope. Our athletic improvements as well, that was some softball drainage. Primarily, it was the track area and redoing the track. And then it had a smaller project with our outdoor basketball court and tennis courts. Again, we had a little better support here, but not enough to move forward with this project. Again, we really want to listen to our community. Community saying no to this piece, we're going to cut it. Which then takes us back to the base plan. So our base plan that we surveyed, we'll talk more about the plan that kind of adapted from that, is really connecting these buildings. It's safety, security. It's doing our capital maintenance plan, our 10-year maintenance plan, and addressing needs across educationally our school district. And with that, we did get enough support, but it was really close. So we're within the margin of error, actually, when you tabulate this. So we really, really wanted to dive down into the comments of this as well. And what we heard here is we need to cut. We need to get this cost lower somehow. We need to figure out a way to really prioritize the high needs and make those cuts to get the overall tax impact down. So that's what we then did. We did make a number of cuts. We did maintain the needs that we had, but we trimmed as much as we possibly could while maintaining the entire capital maintenance piece. And we'll talk more about how that proposal has adapted, but you'll notice that this will go down here in a minute. So that then takes us to going over our challenges. So with our challenges, we really have three big areas: district-wide safety, security, and accessibility, aging building systems and equipment, and then insufficient academic and support areas. So with that, I'll dive into each one quick, and then after we do the challenges, I'll pause the video again and create a new one for the proposed solution. So one, safety and security. This is really at the heart of our project. Right now, we have a middle school and high school that's functioning as really one building, but it is separated by a parking lot. We share staff, we share students. Every 43 minutes, we have students or teachers that are traveling across that parking lot, whether it's rain, snow, ice, salt, whatever it might be. But we're traversing that. The same thing with our food service. We're transporting food across that path daily, whether breakfast in the morning or lunch in the middle of the day. Crossing there where those doors have to be unlocked so students can come in and out at those times. And we really want to make sure that we can keep our students as safe as possible, and also maintain our buildings by not having people having to walk across that and track that up through our buildings as well every 43 minutes. Along with that, these buildings were designed in a very different era where safety and security had very different standards. So our entrances aren't designed for that. So we do have a buzzer system. So at least the doors are locked if a visitor comes up and has to buzz in. But a true secure entrance would be one. And if you go to other schools, you'll see this. You buzzed in and you go into a door bank, and your only option, because those doors are locked that are on the next set, would be to move into the office. You go into the office, and then someone in the office, most likely a secretary, is able to get a visual check, find out from you where you're going, if you need a student, if you're transitioning to a certain part of the building, get you signed in, get a visitor badge so that other people know that you're supposed to be here, and then they can give you access to the rest of the building. Both our middle school and high school do not currently have that. And our middle school is probably worse, where it's actually down a hallway past a classroom and a slight turn, and then there's the office. And neither one of them, high school or middle school, has a true line of sight out that door, so they can see who's coming and going readily. In our middle school, actually, we've had some visitors that have come in and they turn into a classroom thinking that's the office, because that is where most other schools would have their office, right there by the entrance. So one of the big things we want to do here is fix that. Which is a problem at both the middle and high school. And then thirdly, just ADA. There's different ADA requirements that have popped up since 1964 and 1981, obviously. Our entryways themselves are narrow for what true accessibility would be, coded now. So having wider entrances, but also expanding them. Currently, the way that our high school entryway is laid out, how tight it is, we aren't able to have our handicap accessibility openers aligned on the same doors, because the doors can't open fully in the same line if they were. So our handicap students would have to come through in a wheelchair and then turn slightly to get into the next set of doors, simply because of how that door bank is designed from 1964. So we really want to address all of those safety, security, accessibility issues. Two, we really do have some great buildings, and we think they're going to be around for a long time. But when you have buildings from 1964, 1981, and even 1999 now, which is 25 years old if you think about it in the elementary school, we have a number of highly significant repairs that are needed so that these buildings can continue to serve our students for many years to come. So one, just in general, the high school, and specifically the 1964 section of our high school, has a number of original components in it, and it does need significant repairs so that we can maintain it. I was asked in a recent information session, well, how long do we expect the life expectancy of the building to be? And we expect 100 to 120 years of that exterior structure and foundation to be good. And right now we're on 60. So we expect at least another 40 years out of these buildings, as long as we're putting the love into them that we need to continue to serve our students well. So from that end, I think this building's going to last a while, but we do have some things that need some adjusting and updating. We have HVAC, heating, ventilation, air conditioning systems across the district that are aging and need some additional love. And this is really prevalent at the elementary school, where that is all original to the school building itself, or most of it. Some changes we have been able to make along the way. But just like anything, just like your own home, we've maintained it well. We've had a preventative maintenance agreement on our HVAC systems for many years to help maintain these systems. But once you hit 20 years, and in this case 25 years, systems start to fail and they need to be fully replaced. And that's where we kind of are with a majority of our elementary school and anything else that wasn't touched in the HVAC side in the 2015 referendum. Also, the building additions and reconfigurations have led to kind of a unique layout. So trying to tweak some of that as well if we're doing some work within the school district. Lighting efficiency. So interior lightings are not LED currently. So anything we can do while we're updating these, putting in LED lights will save us a lot in utility costs and also affect the lighting that we have. And if you're in our middle school, it just is a little drearier. It doesn't have great light in there. It's just the design that it has. So what we can do or we replace these LED lights to try to get a little more light to brighten up that and hopefully change mood and affect how students are learning and interacting with one another. Could have a really big impact. Um, and then you guys know Rib Lake has parts that are just swampy, and our school district area is does have some water issues overall with it. So we do have drainage issues across the school district that does impact our buildings, parking lots, and sidewalks. We don't just want to replace those parking lots and sidewalks, but we want to fix the drainage issue first. So we do have a number of things in our maintenance plan that are addressing water and funneling water to different places. Then go back and fix the parking lots and the sidewalks that need to be fixed. That way, we're not just having the same problem pop up a few years down the road because we didn't fix the underlying cause. And then lastly, a really big one, our kitchen is the main kitchen that creates all the food for the school district, and then we move that food to the other serving kitchens that we have in our other buildings. So that kitchen is the main kitchen in the high school that has the main fridge for the school district, the main freezers for the school district, all the main cooking equipment for the school district. And that space is original to the 1964 building. Um, it has the original main wood sided fridge in it from 1964. It has the main water boiler in it from 1964. A number of the electrical components are 1964. Flooring, all of it is very very original. About 40% of the appliances in there before 1980, and this is an area that needs to be addressed. Not only the equipment, but also expanding it to be able to meet today's standards in prepping and cooking for the number of students that we do serve. It just needs to be bigger. It needs to have some more space for our kitchen staff to work. So we are looking at how we can work with all of that as well. And then inadequate academic and support areas. So one, our band and choir rooms are too small for the number of students that we have currently participating. With that, like we have a fantastic music program. We have a very artsy community, and I expect that to continue for many, many years. This is just the community that we live in. Our band is, around 60 band participants every year, and the band room itself does not meet that size that you would need just to house that number of students in a band classroom. Um, Not to mention the audio output that creates with the size ceiling that it has, the walls that it has, and just the amount of decibels that it is producing. It is not adequately sized for that. And then also, it doesn't have the correct humidification system, so our instruments are wearing much quicker and are becoming damaged a lot faster because of the humidity and how it varies in that room. So we want to address all of that. Two, our technical education shop areas are in separate buildings. So our wood shop is in our middle school, while our welding and our tech ed classroom is in our high school. And when we have an auto shop next to it that hasn't been used for many, many years for true auto shop, we do teach small engines in there, and it typically has really been storage for many, many years. So what we're trying to do, we're looking at, is moving over our tech ed wood shop room into that space, which the auto shop is actually bigger, can allow a lot more flexibility in how we use that space, but then getting them all in the same area so that same teacher can monitor, utilize both spaces better, do more collaborative style learning. I'll talk more about that in a little bit. Our gym is too small to host some WIA playoff events and also host larger youth tournaments on Saturdays and things like that. So we did have to move our 2018 regional final game away from our home site, although we had earned that back in 2018. And again, this year, our regional final should have been played in Rib Lake, but because of our gym size, the WIA moved that event up to Prentice. So our teams traveled to Prentice in that case. And anytime this happens, all of the people that are coming to our community are now going to a different community and spending their money in a different community, whether that's gas or at a restaurant or whatever it might be, stopping to pick up something at a Dollar General, but not with us in our community. Maintaining duplicate spaces. So we do have a number of spaces currently that are the same classroom utilized by the same teacher, but we are keeping two spaces separate. So we have a middle school and high school Spanish classroom, family consumer science room, your like home ec room, and an art classroom in both of those buildings. So in our opinion, it's not the best to try to make both of those up to today's standards and put money into both classrooms versus putting money into one classroom and allowing the students to come to that one classroom. And especially if we're able to connect the buildings, we could utilize our spaces better. And have better spaces for our students. The fitness center as well. We heard a lot about from our community. They didn't love the location that it is in the back and how small it is. So the current size of our fitness center is too small for a full PE class. You see a number of kids in the hallway whenever we have PE class down there. Um, it's really like a large hotel fitness center, if you will. Um, but we really want to have something that would be big enough to host a full classroom and be able to house our community when we're there. And we heard a lot about the location too, it being in the back of the building, not well lit. Community members didn't feel as safe coming in after hours to that space because of that location. And then just overall, aging spaces across the school district and trying to figure out 21st century learning spaces. We have some of those more at the elementary school, but what can we do to create more collaboration and 21st century skills in our middle school and high school rooms to help foster that more with our students as well. And one other thing that I forgot to mention back in the aging buildings before I move on too, one of these pieces too with our kitchen is our technology equipment and its location. So all of our technology equipment across the school district is housed in the high school. It is all of our servers, our telephone systems, our switches, every piece of technological infrastructure goes into one room in the high school and then it spiders out from that. That room is actually a part of the kitchen and it is a room that houses both of our main freezers for the school district. So we have our freezers sitting 5 feet away from the telephone system, the servers, the fiber optic cables, everything that powers all of the infrastructure for our school district. And those are at very competing odds with each other. You have freezers that are trying to cool off the inside and they're putting off a ton of heat, and you have your telecommunication software and your servers that are needed to be cold and cool and have different humidity than the freezers are creating. So with those really being at odds, we want to separate those and at the very minimum put a wall between them and have to slide our freezers slightly to get those two into completely separate areas that can have different environments appropriately. So those are our major challenges, and then our next video we'll talk about the proposed solution. Thank you.